What's going on, guys? So the title of this video is Vasyl Lomochenko is the new Triple G Gennady Golovkin in boxing, and I say that in terms of a fighter who's avoided, and people are blaming him and criticizing his career because of his lack of competition and people willing to get into the ring with him, not blaming those guys who are either publicly ducking or pricing themselves out to not want to fight the best that there is and the best that there's out there, right? Now, this comes on the day of. This video comes on the day of Vasyl Lomochenko's ESPN debut against Miguel Mariaga. Now, having said that, Miguel Mariaga is not deserving of being in the ring against Vasyl Lomochenko. He, of course, is coming off a loss against Oscar Valdez, and a few fights previously was defeated by Nicholas Walters, an opponent that Vasyl Lomochenko destroyed. He made him quit. And again, even in the Nicholas Walters fight, it's funny. People were making excuses for Walters, but it's besides the point. But let's just do a landscape of the division in itself, right? And to see who Bob Arum and Top Rank made offers to and who publicly ducked. Now, Tank Davis is talking all slick now, but he publicly was saying that he wasn't willing to make the fight yet. And now I don't blame Tank Davis for not wanting to take the fight because he's too young. Although that's a whole different discussion because he already has a belt, and I think it's a little, you could almost say, it almost defeats the purpose of being a champion if you need time to develop. Then don't get that belt. Then be a prospect, because once you have a belt, you should want to challenge other titles, the other title holders, to try to unify your place in the sport and the best in the division, and to go down historically as a unified champion, unless you move out of a weight class, right? Now, so that's one. Tank Davis, that would be a better fight, obviously. Miguel Burchett, he had a fight on HBO. I'm not sure if they made an offer to him per se, but I know for a fact the other champion, or the other guy in that division, Jezreel Corrales, and he publicly turned down that fight to take a lesser fight, and a fight that he was exposed, in my opinion, of him not even being in the same level. In fact, I think Jason Sosa would have a good fight against Jezreel Corrales. I know a lot of hipsters in boxing pretend that Jezreel Corrales would give him problems just because we haven't seen him other than that last fight at HBO a few weeks ago. But Jezreel Corrales is another guy who publicly has turned down a fight because of money. You could play that one way or the other, but at the end of the day, I mean, he didn't want to fight Lomachenko. So you pretty much have the other guys, and Salido's another guy who turned down. He not only did he turn down a rematch against Lomachenko, but he turned down a fight, priced himself out against Tank Davis, which would be on the undercard of the Conor McGregor Mayweather fight in August. So that's the landscape of the division. So Miguel Mariaga is not a great opponent. It's a crappy fight, but the blame should not be placed on Vasyl Lomachenko. This is very similar to how people were treating Golovkin in that sense, right? That fighters were pricing themselves out, fighters were publicly ducking, and fighters were doing catch fights and avoiding the man himself to extend their career before the inevitable end came. And finally, of course, we're getting the Canelo Triple G fight. Thank God that happened. But I mean, Miguel Cotto became the WBC lineal champion of the division without actually beating a middleweight, a healthy middleweight in the sense of that, because Sergio Martinez had one leg. If I understand that you could argue that, but I mean, anybody with two eyes saw that there was a disabled man in that ring that night. And same thing with Canelo. So then Canelo beat Miguel Cotto at a catchweight nonetheless, and then became the lineal middleweight champion. But props to Canelo for that fight happening. But I will say one thing, that Vasyl Lomachenko is in a position where he has more upside than Canelo because he's younger. He has more opportunities being signed with the best promoter in American boxing, which is Bob Arum. He's getting these fighters on ESPN, and he seems more willing than Canelo than Golovkin to move up weight classes to fight the bigger names. Now, this people now that are saying that there's certain guys that will beat Vasyl Lomachenko is very similar to the stuff that I heard about Canelo, right? Mikey Garcia is one of those guys, you know? And Mikey Garcia, who I think is one of the best fighters on earth, right? That's who a lot of people are saying would beat Vasyl Lomachenko. And I may favor Mikey Garcia in that fight. But this is similar to the Andre Ward talk, because Andre Ward is a much bigger fighter than Golovkin, right? So if you put Andre Ward near the top pound for pound in the world as number one, and even myself, I'm not a big Andre Ward fan, but I think he's the number one pound for pound fighter on earth based on resume and just all the other factors that I contribute in. You're saying that the only person that would beat Golovkin is a division ahead and number one pound for pound. Sounds very similar to what I'm hearing about Mikey Garcia, maybe to a lesser extent, because he hasn't solidified himself as that perennial fighter yet because of the 3 years off. But Mikey Garcia has a chance one day to be in talks for number one pound for pound fighter in the world, because he's shown a lot, moving up weight classes and winning. But like I said, Vasyl Lomachenko seems more likely to move up, obviously, than someone like Golovkin. He was younger when he had big exposure. So at 29 years old, you still have the ability to put on some size and be competitive at higher weight classes. Another guy like Terence Crawford, I think, is too big, would beat Vasyl Lomachenko. But again, Terence Crawford is another guy who is in the top, I don't know, 3 pound for pound right now. Maybe he's the number one pound for pound talent. So the fact that people are talking about him losing to only these guys who are bigger than him and that are universally accepted as some of the best fighters on earth really reminds me a lot about Golovkin, in addition to the blaming him for his level of opposition, when you guys should put blame on the other guys, right? Who especially the title holders, not challengers. Like, if I was a challenger and I'm like, you know what, like, I'm not ready to fight Vasyl Lomachenko, but I could take an easier title route and then get my feet wet, and then with that title, then challenge the best guy in that division, right? The best guy at 130. When you have a belt, like, it's just no excuses. So I really hope that the Tank Davis fight gets made, because I'm high on Tank Davis too. I think he has a future in boxing. I just don't like the attitude that fans are approaching this fight, making it seem like that Vasyl Lomachenko would be honored to step in the ring with Tank Davis, when all Tank Davis is an extremely talented fighter connected to Floyd Mayweather. He doesn't have the type of resume right now. He doesn't have the type of ability to show that he's willing to fight, move up and fight, and he doesn't have the amateur backing of the 2 gold medals. And it also is very similar to that being Ukrainian, Vasyl Lomachenko, which he has more of an advantage than Golovkin, because Ukraine is a much bigger country and has much more of a larger population in America than Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a much smaller country in terms of population and has a much smaller American demographic that identifies Kazakh. It's only a few thousand, actually. Obviously, Ukraine, if you go to certain northeast cities, like New York City, for example, there's tons of Ukrainians. So, having said all this, I'm more optimistic about the future of Vasyl Lomachenko's career than Golovkin's. I think Golovkin, it's not until he's the age right now that he's getting his opportunity to shine on the biggest stage, and I think Vasyl Lomachenko's opportunity will come sooner. And there's a lot of the factors like I explained previous, but I just urge fans to point your criticism towards those who should be criticized. And that's the guy. Like I said, it's not Vasyl Lomachenko. He's doing his thing. He stops opponents when a lesser opponent is in front of him. He stops them. And if you look at his resume, his past five opponents, none who are quote unquote bums, right? And you could say maybe Roman Martinez was past his prime. So what? So he slept him. Nicholas Walters was a viable opponent, and he stopped him in 7 rounds by outclassing him. And Jason Sosa is a tough guy, but it just wasn't the same thing, and he was stopped. He entertains and he finishes and he throws a lot of punches. So I'm optimistic about Vasyl Lomachenko. I think that he could be a better fighter. as far as the history books treat him than Triple G. And I think that he maybe even has a chance to be more mainstream than Triple G eventually because of his connection to Bob Arum. 85 years old, going strong, promoting fighters, and he's doing a good job with Vasyl Lomochenko as of right now, and he's done a great job with Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford. So, all right, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please subscribe, like, and comment below. Anything helps, and I'll come out with more videos shortly. And again, I apologize about this, the quality of the visual quality of this podcast because of this, situation. Anyways, later.